What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we are taking a look at WhatCulture's 10 crazy Star Wars theories that fans actually believed. So we're going to be checking this out. I'm going to give my opinion on if I think that some of these theories are good, or if they were bad, or if I think that, like, who would ever have believed these? So that's what we're doing in this video. I've been doing a lot more like WhatCulture reaction videos like this, and the reason for that is because, well, people have been suggesting them, but they're also like very approachable, like easy to digest, stuff like that. So if you guys have any videos that are like this that you want to see me react to, give my opinions on, let me know in the comments below, because if I use your suggestion, I will give you a shout out in that video. So with that said, guys, let us jump in.
Here are 10 crazy Star Wars fan theories people believed. 10. Ewoks happily ate defeated stormtroopers. Remember at the Return of the Jedi when the Ewoks were using stormtrooper helmets as drums? It was a cute repurposing of their armor, but it appeared far more sinister for some fans. There's a theory out there that the Ewoks happily ate their fallen enemies, and the theory has some teeth. Earlier in the film, those same cute, fuzzy little warriors had Han and Luke on a spit, ready to roast them alive. It's not a complete stretch of the imagination to connect the dots between that scene and the tons of dead stormtroopers conveniently littering the surface of Endor. This theory has been debated for decades, and for most people, it's pretty far out there. That being said, there's a ton of after-the-fact canon references that suggest it's true. In the Shattered Empire comic, there's a comment that suggests Ewoks enjoyed snacking on their defeated foes. If that's not enough to prove the theory as true, there's a book titled How Not to Get Eaten by Ewoks, a new guide to surviving the Star Wars galaxy. The book was published with Disney's full approval, so a once crazy theory may have been confirmed after the fact via some Disney fan service.
Oh yeah, this one's definitely. I always assume that too, guys. You gotta remember they're savages. That's what they are. They're savage little bears, right? And they're on this planet that they probably hunt on, yes, but they also collect berries and, you know, get their water obviously from there. But they're not going to turn down free meat. Like, savages don't do that. That's like that. No, like, if you need subsistence, you're not going to turn down free meat. Like, imagine all that meat. I'm not saying that I'd have any. I'm just saying if I was an Ewok and I was hungry, and instead of going to chase after some, I don't know, deer, there's a dead guy right there. I'm a bear. I'm going to eat him. Like, why would you do that? So, yeah, I agree with that theory. That one makes sense for sure.
9. The Knights of Ren were clones of Rey. The sequel trilogy introduced the Knights of Ren without going into much detail as to who they were or what happened to them. In the first two films, Kylo Ren is described as the last of the Knights of Ren, but the final film shows them all alive and well. While 2020's The Rise of Kylo Ren comic provided an origin for the Knights, fans attempted to compensate for the lack of information surrounding the characters at the beginning of the sequels by creating plenty of theories. By far, one of the craziest theories regarding the Knights of Ren is that they are all clones of various characters, including Kylo Ren. This has been expanded to include the possibility that they are also clones of either Luke Skywalker or even Rey, which is the craziest version of the theory. 8. Anakin mind trick.
No. That's a bad theory. That's a really bad one. For me, I had always assumed they were like untrained Jedi. Like, didn't Kylo have some people help him, like other like Jedi who turned bad with him to take down the other Jedi? I kind of remember someone saying that in the movie. Like, someone was like, him and a few other students betrayed us. And I always just kind of assumed they were the other betrayers, but that they never learned how to use a lightsaber and use the Force and stuff like that. They just, you know, were good at fighting. It's an interesting idea from where they came from, but not Rey. You know what I mean? They weren't Rey or Luke. They weren't clones. You know, they're just these guys they're cultists that got turned into, you know, fighters that Kylo just slayed like nothing anyway, so they don't matter anyways. So I don't agree with that theory at all. Let's continue.
Into falling for him. When Anakin met Padme, she was the queen of a planet and an aspiring politician. On the other hand, Anakin was a prepubescent child, but the two were knocking boots a decade later. Padme was an intelligent rational woman who loved democracy,
They're so
while
British.
Anakin was a brash teenager prone to tantrums who openly hated democracy. The two really couldn't have been more different, which is why some fans believe he used the Jedi mind trick on her. The theory suggests that he didn't do this consciously, rather he subconsciously manipulated manipulated Padme for a long period of time to make her fall in love with him, or at the very least, make her think she was in love with him. Their romance blossomed after he admitted to slaughtering a village of sand people, which included women and the children. That isn't something a rational person finds attractive. Regardless, she saw something in him, or was tricked into seeing something in the young Jedi that evolved into a full-blown romance that defies explanation, at least according to the theory.
Okay, you know what? I don't hate this theory. I think that makes sense. I think that it makes sense why Padme would go from like just seeing him as like a little kid. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, she knew him as a kid, and then 10 years later she sees him again, and he's like attractive. You know what I mean? I get the idea of her being like, oh, he's good looking, but he's a kid still in my mind. You know, even though they're only 5 years apart. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but I would understand the argument, the idea that he used a force trick that like got her to fall in love with him in the first place, or to start liking him, and then of course as they hung out more, that's when she actually ended up really falling in love with him. So I'm okay with that. I think that's an interesting idea, and it makes sense that like Anakin is super powerful. You know, we never really see that deep of a force ability from him though, so why wouldn't he be able to do that, right? There's mind tricks, so why wouldn't Anakin be able to use his super powerful mind to effectively trick someone into liking him? Especially like in his mind, he's saying to her, he's like, I like you, you should like me. I like you, you should like me. So maybe like he somehow willed that into the Force, and the Force did that. So I actually don't mind this one. Actually, let me know in the comments below if you guys like this one or not. So that would make sense to me.
7. Snoke was Darth Plagueis the Wise. Before Snoke was seen taking a bath in a cloning vat via The Rise of Skywalker, there were tons of theories spread across the internet attempting to identify who he was and where he came from.
Oh, the best one was
Mace
Windu.
Others believed him to be someone referenced in the prequel trilogy by Emperor Palpatine. He spoke of Darth Plagueis the Wise, a Sith Lord who mastered death itself. His mentioning of this was all part of the plan to turn Anakin to the dark side, but there was some truth in his words. He repeated them in The Rise of Skywalker, and his plan in that movie involved taking over the body of Rey instead, and rebuilding his broken and feeble cloned body. The theory twists Palpatine's words, suggesting that the spirit of Darth Plagueis possessed Snoke. He may have died years before, but he passed his consciousness into another being and took control. The theory is a bit out there, seeing as Plagueis would never willingly become Sidious's puppet, but some fans believed it. 6.
I think that this is the way it should have been. They missed a huge opportunity bringing Palpatine back when they set up Plagueis all the way back to the prequels. It was the best way to tie in the prequels to the sequels, and yeah, that was a massive missed opportunity. They should have just did it. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Should have did it. The Mandalorian will retcon the sequel trilogy.
The Mandalorian will retcon
Okay,
the
I did
sequel
hear about
trilogy.
something like this.
If today is your first day on the internet, you should know that some Star Wars fans are incredibly toxic. It's a sad fact for the fandom, and it has resulted in some insane theories. The most recent nutty idea centers around the theory that The Mandalorian will retcon the sequel trilogy. Plenty of fans hated the last 3 movies in the Skywalker saga, fueling this theory. It hinges on Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau's continued embrace of the Star Wars animated series as official continuity, and Ahsoka's voice being heard at the end of Rise of Skywalker. If she's dead by the time of the sequels, then Star Wars Rebels: A World Between Worlds resulted in a split timeline. One results in a dead Ahsoka, the sequels, and in the other timeline, The Mandalorian, she survived and helped point Din and Grogu in Luke's direction. Because Luke trains Grogu decades before the sequels, Luke learns how to properly train a Jedi long before he takes in Ben Solo. He handles Ben's lean towards the dark side and doesn't fear him to the point of creating Kylo Ren. As a result, the events of The Force Awakens never come to pass. It's never going to happen, because Disney aren't going to retcon a trilogy that grossed a combined $4.4 billion at the global box office, but that hasn't stopped people from latching onto the conspiracy all the same.
Do it. Do it. I forgot about the world. How did I forget about the world between worlds? You know, I mentioned something like about this in one of my recent videos where I was saying like, I wish they just do 2 alternate universes. You know, Marvel is exploring the idea of like multiverse, right? Star Wars should do something along the same lines, just like, of course, make it make sense in their, you know, their story. And the world between worlds is the best way to do that. Like, there could still be the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and then there can be this other universe, or actually there can be a bunch of different timelines, obviously, but they could do a different universe / timeline where the Mandalorian kind of does their own thing, and you don't have to worry about leaning up to like certain points of an episode. Like you can bring in cool characters that wouldn't normally be there because they were either killed or whatever. Like imagine if they introduced the idea of different Star Wars timelines. Then we could get like an Anakin Skywalker never turning to the dark side, like my Star Wars What If the Jedi Council Survived video. If you guys haven't seen it, you probably have. It has over like 1 million views, so you probably saw it. But if you didn't see it, something along those lines. In fact, hey Disney, if you're watching this and you're thinking about doing it, give me a call. I'll write the entire series for you, and I'm gonna work cheap. I'll do it. So go ahead, give me a call. Anyways, back to the video. So yeah, I think that is what Star Wars needs. It needs an alternate timeline. There's a timeline where only the original trilogy happened. There's a timeline where only the prequels and the original trilogy happened. There's a timeline where the prequels, the originals, and the sequels happened. And then there's a timeline where prequels, originals, and then only the TV shows happened. And we can just do that and not have to worry about anything. Please. I want to see it. Let's make it happen.
5. Kylo Ren didn't kill his father. In The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren did something to Han Solo that Harrison Ford had been waiting for years. He killed him.
Yeah, we definitely saw
with
Kylo
the two
kill
coming
his father.
close to one another as Han's son begins to hand him his lightsaber. Then, at the last moment, the saber ignites, killing the scruffy-looking nerf herder. The moment was necessary for Kylo's complete acceptance of the dark side of the Force. And while it certainly appeared as if he killed his father, there's a theory that suggests otherwise. What if Kylo didn't kill Han? What if Han sacrificed himself for his son? The movie never reveals who triggered the saber, as it is closely held between both characters. Technically, either could have ignited it, and it's only inferred that Kylo was the one who did. Han knew his son was on the precipice of abandoning his attachments and fully embracing the dark side. In an attempt to keep that from happening, Han took the lightsaber and ignited it into his own body, sacrificing himself. Doing this would have prevented his son from crossing that line, so it was a last-ditch effort to ensure Ben could one day redeem himself.
Okay, yeah, no. I understand where you're coming from, but no way. Look, let me show you something real quick. I'm gonna show you this. Watch this. Ready?
Into his own
Watch
body,
this. Ready?
Sacrificing himself.
You see that face? That is a face of someone who just got stabbed and wasn't thinking they were gonna get stabbed. You see this thrust? Watch this real quick. Watch. Ready?
That from happening, Han took the lightsaber and ignited it into his own body, sacrificing.
That's someone thrusting. That was Kylo thrusting, and that was Han going, "Oh, you stabbed me." So no, that theory is ridiculous. Han did not kill himself. Would he have? Would he have sacrificed himself for his son? Yes, I do believe that Han would have done that, but not in that situation. Nope. I get it. I get where people might want to believe it, but no, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but like for the actual scene, if you watch that scene with that context added, no, it doesn't make sense. So with that said, let's continue.
Dagobah is actually Naboo, long after it's been left to rot by the Empire.
Oh my gosh.
The original Star Wars trilogy introduced the planet Dagobah, a verdant swamp world Yoda took refuge in when he went into exile. The story behind that exile was explained away in a single line of dialogue in Revenge of the Sith, when Yoda said, "Into exile I must go," referring to Dagobah. One of the planets introduced in the prequels was Naboo, which is also a verdant world, though it looks nothing like Dagobah. The two couldn't be any more different, but that didn't keep some fans from whipping up a theory that the two worlds are one and the same. The theory suggests that when Palpatine rose to power, taking over the Republic to transform it into the Empire, he left Naboo to rot. After all, Naboo is a shining beacon of democracy in the Republic Senate, despite being run by a monarchy, but that's not the point. So Palpatine would have been happy to see his home world turn to ruin. Yoda chose this planet for his
I'm just gonna stop it
No,
there.
he's
No, that's a bad theory. If you believe that, you're wrong. I was gonna say it right there. All right, Snoke is actually. Oh my gosh, I just mentioned this earlier. People believe this. People actually believe this.
May have proven this crazy theory false, but it had plenty of people falling in line, believing it when it was first proposed on Reddit.
No one
After all,
it,
there were tons of blank is Snoke theories making the rounds online. But the belief that he was Mace Windu was the craziest. Moments before Palpatine
they're both
told the
bald,
clones
that's
to
why.
execute Order 66, he threw the Jedi Master out of his window. And while Windu's death wasn't explicitly shown, there's no chance he survived, right? Well, this theory points to that death as being unlikely, due to a Jedi's penchant for surviving otherwise deadly falls. Before that, he was hit with a ton of Force lightning, which would have severely disfigured him. When he hit the ground, he sustained a head injury as well, ultimately transforming him into a pale and decrepit man bent on revenge. Another key aspect of this theory is Mace's lightsaber, which is purple, a color made by combining red and blue. These colors often represent the dark and light sides of the Force, so, as per the theory, it foreshadowed his eventual turn towards the dark side, as a means of seeking vengeance. 2.
Man, people really just be grasping at straws when they're making theories. I get the purple thing. Like, that would be interesting, but yeah, there's no way. No.
Palpatine is Anakin Skywalker's father.
I believe this one. I believe it. I don't care if the creators say no. I believe this one.
Sensitive. A quick blood test and Qui-Gon Jinn found that he had the highest midichlorian count that anyone had ever seen. This introduced a concept that fans hated, but it also set up a particularly crazy fan theory. Later, Anakin's mother tells Qui-Gon that the boy had no father. This brings the concept of a virgin birth into the Star Wars universe, so speculation of the boy's father began almost immediately. In Christian mythology, Jesus was the result of a virgin birth, so it stands to reason that George Lucas might have been alluding to a higher power being the child's father. Was it God? Was it the Force? For some fans, the only logical answer is Palpatine. The Sith Lord never did the deed with Anakin's mum, but according to the theory, he manipulated the midichlorians via the Force to impregnate her. This somewhat falls in line with the prophecy of the Chosen One, and while it's crazy to imagine it actually happening, within the lore, it is theoretically possible, and has even been referenced in the comics before, albeit as a Force vision and nothing else.
Yeah. He is either Palpatine's son, well, theoretical son, or he's Space Jesus. Or he is Palpatine's son, but the rest of the galaxy views it as Space Jesus. So I agree with that theory. I think that makes sense. Like, if you're going to scientifically explain the reason for why he is here and not, go into the more mystical reasons like just the Force, that's it. That's the reason.
1. Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord. One of the craziest Star Wars fan theories out there that people believe is the one claiming Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord, which suggests that his ridiculous clumsiness is so wild it must be an act.
This is such an old theory. This is like one of the first Star Wars theories.
He did so in as innocuous a manner as possible, but as soon as he had some power, he wielded it like a Sith. Jar Jar was the one who brought up the no-confidence vote against Chancellor Valorum, and he was the one who got the votes that made the newly crowned Chancellor Palpatine an emperor with absolute power. In essence, Jar Jar Binks was instrumental in the fall of the Republic. Palpatine proved that a Sith can hide in plain sight, so it stands to reason that someone at the center of so much change could be a Sith as well.
That is hilarious. That's hilarious. The fact that that is still a Star Wars theory, it's great, honestly. That's one of the oldest ones. I remember hearing that like back in like 2010 or 2011. So man, that's great. Yeah, guys, did you guys enjoy this video? Did you agree with all these theories? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Do you have any cool ideas for videos you want to see me do in the future? But if you enjoyed this video, guys, please consider liking, subscribing, and turn on notifications. I'm trying to get back on the algorithm, so the more you guys do that, the sooner I can get there, and I'd appreciate it. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.